Here's a question. What makes for a good D&D monster? Is it its abilities and stat blocks, or its appearance and lore, or the way it fits into your story and its relationship to your characters? Well, what if I told you it was all of the above, plus an extra secret ingredient that turns a good D&D monster into a great one? Dare I say, even a perfect one. And what if I told you the best portrayal of that secret is in a recent modest budget horror film that, in my opinion, not nearly enough people have seen. But if you watch it in the right frame of mind, you'll make a close to perfect D&D monster too. I'm doublecritfail. This is Jenny D and Pointy Hat's Monster Week Fey Edition, and let's talk about weapons and how it accidentally created the perfect D&D monster. Now, confession time. I wasn't sure how I was going to structure this video, because originally I wanted to focus on my antagonist, the BBEG, but when I told my fellow D&D Dungeon Tubers what my video was about, most of them had never seen the movie, and context here is very important. So you can think of this as two videos in one. The first is going to be a synopsis of the film, and the second, a breakdown of our antagonist. That way we're all on the same page when we start talking about our monster. Sound good? Good. Let's start with a little background. Weapons is a 2025 horror film directed by Zach Kreger, following the success of his first movie, Barbarian. But I'd argue it's not just a horror movie, but actually a dark fairy tale in the style of Brothers Grimm. But you already probably knew that, considering this is for Monster Fey Week. It takes place in Maybrook, Pennsylvania, a small town beset by tragedy following the mysterious disappearance of all but one of an entire third grade classroom's worth of kids, who, how does the movie put it?
The night before, at 2:17 in the morning, every other kid woke up, got out of bed, walked downstairs, opened the front door, walked across the front yard and into the dark, and they never came back.
Creepy. The movie is told Pulp Fiction style through the POV of 6 different characters as they investigate the disappearance of the children and the cause behind it. And the more I watched this film, the more I realized Weapons is a D&D movie. Let me explain. We have 6 characters, 6 chapters. Let's go. Be forewarned, spoilers ahead. Chapter 1 is told through the perspective of 3rd grade teacher Justine Gandy, the central target of an angry mob believing her to be connected to the children's disappearance. Despite her proclaimed innocence and lack of any evidence, she's ostracized by the community, harassed with threatening phone calls, and even has her car vandalized with the word witch. But Justine isn't a witch. In fact, I'd call her a cleric. Not just because of this giant heart on her sweater, though it's pretty cool, but because what she wants most is to help those in pain, including the one person most able to relate to her plight, the last remaining kid in her class, Alex.
Well, I would feel so much better if I could just speak with him.
Right there.
What?
That's the problem. You'd feel so much better. You have to realize you aren't a parent, you're a teacher.
It's just, we're the only ones left.
One of the things you notice while watching Weapons is many of its characters have flaws, and Justine says that as a healer, she craves the company of others. She hates being alone, and at this moment, the entire town scorns her, all except Paul Morgan, a local cop. As Justine dips into drinking and self-pity, Paul drops in to check in on her, and this isn't a great idea considering that A, Paul is a recovering alcoholic, and B, he's married.
Does Donna know you're here?
No,
Really?
really. We're not happening right now.
But more on that mess later. The next day, during a post-romp discussion, Justine questions Paul on how the missing children's case is going, and his response isn't reassuring.
I didn't realize I was getting grilled on the investigation.
No, I'm not trying to grill. I'm just wondering if I need to solve this thing myself.
And yeah, she decides to do pretty much exactly that, starting with snooping around Alex's family home. And what she sees makes no sense. To make matters worse, Justine isn't sleeping well, as she's tormented by strange dreams. Yeah, bad dreams. I wonder what those could mean. Despite all of this, she continues her investigation, and during a stakeout at Alex's home one night, this happens. Not only is this extremely creepy, it's also a very insightful clue as to what kind of creature is behind all of this. And by the way, let's maybe turn this into a game. As soon as you think you have an answer as to what kind of D&D monster we're going to be dealing with, throw your timestamp and guess in the comments below. Now, let's continue with Chapter 2. This chapter is told from the perspective of Archer Graff, father to one of the missing children. He's suffering deeply from loss and also from his own terrifying nightmares.
Matthew, I love you so much. What the fuck?
His grief manifests as anger and frustration over the lack of progress by city police, and this anger fuels his hatred of Justine, who he blames.
I want to know what happened in that classroom. Why just her classroom? Why only her?
Now, at first I was going to peg him as our party barbarian because of these anger issues, but then I realized that's not quite right. He's not raging. Justine is just his favored enemy, because Archer is, as his name suggests, a ranger. This is shown by the fact that Archer is apparently the only person in town smart enough to actually track the trajectory of the missing kids through the use of multiple doorbell camera angles acquired from other parents. He uses landmarks to help him plot out the course on a map, true ranger style, and manages to approximate the location of where they might have gone. As he searches the area, he spots Justine at a gas station thanks to the hunter's mark he placed on her car. He steps out to interrogate her. Before he can make too much headway though, something absolutely crazy happens.
This whole victim persona that you're taking on, it might have the police. Stop thinking of yourself.
Marcus?
Like any good party member, Archer rushes to the rescue, putting his own life on the line on the process. By the way, I'm not cutting these chapters short. This is exactly how they end in the movie, in these big, scary cliffhangers. Kind of like when you have a DM who likes throwing in a big ambush right before the end of a session. Anyway, Chapter 3 focuses on Paul, and based on the fact that he's an upholder of the law, you can probably already guess he's the party paladin, or should I say, Pauladin. Paul seems to follow a few different oaths, and throughout this chapter, we see him break all of them. First, there's the oath of the law, which he breaks by losing his temper and assaulting a handcuffed suspect, then trying to cover up all the evidence.
Here's what's gonna happen now. I'm gonna take these cuffs off you, okay? I'm gonna get in my car in a second, I'm gonna drive away. But are you listening to me? I don't wanna see you here again.
He next breaks his oath of sobriety by meeting up with Justine in a bar and getting wasted. Then immediately completes the hat trick by breaking the oath of fidelity to his wife. Yeah, remember how we told Justine he and his wife were separated? Total lie.
Where have you been? Paul. You piece of shit.
Like I said, these people are deeply flawed. Paul's life is falling apart, and he has no one but himself to blame. Though when he sees the town junkie approaching his precinct, the guy he earlier assaulted, he assumes the dude is gonna narc and decides to blame him instead.
Hey! What did I tell you? Huh? What did I tell you? Where the fuck are you?
One really cool thing about Weapons is how seamlessly it blends genres. So in Chapter 1, we had thriller. In Chapter 2, we had mystery. In Chapter 3, we had drama. And now in Chapter 4, we're going to lean a little bit into horror comedy. Here we see James as a low-life junkie who lies to or steals from whoever he can in order to scrape together enough money for his next fix. Obviously, this is our rogue. After his first confrontation with Paul, James wanders the neighborhood to notice the uncollected newspapers in front of Alex's house. He proceeds to do what any good rogue would do and decides to break in, only to find the house dark, dreary, and empty. That is, until he spots a man and woman comatose on the couch.
You good?
Undeterred, James heads to the basement to spot the 17 missing kids. But something about them isn't right.
Sorry!
And then things get worse. James flees the house and ends up back at the pawn shop to hawk more stolen goods. That's when he notices a reward poster for information regarding the lost children.
Calling about the $50,000 reward for information about the missing kids. But so how's this gonna work though? How do I get the money?
He heads to the police station to collect his reward when Paul spots him.
Hey!
James runs to a nearby wooded area to hide, and there he sees something strange. A red-headed figure similar to the creature we've seen haunt Justine and Alex's nightmares. Okay, so now we're seeing this dream thing in the daytime too. So that's terrifying. James rushes to his tent, only to discover he's been followed. And that's the second time he stabbed Paul with the needle.
It was an accident! It was an accident! I'm sorry! Wait! I know those kids are! Where? At a house not far in the basement.
Even though not entirely convinced, Paul decides to check out the claim, and James leads him to Alex's house.
Excuse me, sir. I don't want to be rude, but, like, how do I know you aren't gonna try and, like, take that reward for yourself? Sir? Sir?
James can only watch helplessly from the back of the police car, while Paul steps inside the house and doesn't return for hours. And as we've already established, this house is not a place you want to be at night.
Oh, thank you.
When Paul finally returns, he seems violent and crazed, and he drags a helpless James inside.
Help me! Someone please help me!
Okay, so quick recap. We have missing kids, terrifying nightmares, weird rituals, and people controlled by some unknown force. Do you have any guesses as to what kind of D&D monster we're dealing with? Well, I'm sure a lot of you have already figured it out, and in this next chapter, all answers are going to be revealed. Chapter 5 focuses on Marcus, principal of Maybrook Elementary, and I'm not gonna lie, I couldn't come up with a class for Marcus. I guess an NPC is sometimes just an NPC, but I would argue that this chapter is less about him and more about the BBEG, who we are about to meet. The first thing we see is a phone conversation between Marcus and Justine, where she pressures him to do a wellness check on Alex and his parents.
Okay, here's what I'll do. I'll invite his parents to come in, have a talk with me. We'll have a face-to-face at the school. Is that acceptable to you?
Yes, thank you. I would really appreciate that.
Okay then, you're welcome. Goodbye.
So he arranges a meeting, but instead of Alex's parents, we get
Principal Miller, I'm Glattis.
And folks, I know we're halfway through this video, but from this point on, Aunt Glattis is the star of the show. And soon enough, we're going to go very deep into her character. But for now, it's enough to say that Aunt Glattis is just as bizarre in personality as she is in appearance.
We have not met, is that right?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, phew, because I was relatively certain I'd remember.
I'm Alex's aunt, and his mom is my baby sister.
When Marcus asks why Alex's parents couldn't come themselves, she deflects.
Well, I hate to say it, but his parents have been feeling unwell as of late, and I'm staying with them to help take care of Alex.
Oh, so it's serious.
Oh, no, it's not serious. Nothing terminal. It's just a touch of consumption.
A touch of consumption?
Yeah.
When he tells her he may be forced to contact CPS if he can't reach Alex's parents, she seems to take a sudden interest in some of his ribbons in his office before continuing the conversation.
Well, this is very upsetting.
The next day, while enjoying a gigantic tray of hot dogs with his husband, like any red-blooded American, Marcus is unexpectedly visited by Aunt Glattis. And we're about to find out exactly what kind of being she is.
I am sorry to tell you this, sweetie, but I am on the verge of collapse. Oh. Could I please have some water?
Marcus's husband politely invites her into the home, but rather than a glass, she asks for a bowl of water and begins performing a bizarre blood ritual involving a twig adorned with Marcus's office ribbon. She then steals a lock of his husband's hair and nonchalantly produces a bell. And folks, this is when we find out Aunt Glattis is a hag, y'all. Put a pin in that. We'll come back to it very soon. Now under her control, an enraged Marcus vomits a black ichor on his husband and fatally bludgeons his skull, as Glattis takes a lock of Justine's hair, which we saw acquired earlier in the movie, and sends Marcus after her. Which, now that he's raging, I realize we had a barbarian in the party after all, and his name is Marcus. It's always the ones you least suspect. We now see the rest of the chase/fight between Marcus, Justine, and Archer, which I'll just say ends poorly for Marcus. Now with Ranger Archer and Cleric Justine on the same side, he shares with her the map of the town, where he charted the children's paths on the night of their disappearance. And Justine immediately notices something very important.
Oh my God.
So there must be something about this area.
Alex.
What?
Alex Lilly lives in this house.
Pause, break, interlude. Now that we're at the last chapter, I think we're ready to discuss Aunt Glattis and why she is simultaneously so amazing and terrifying. And most importantly, why she is the perfect example of a classic D&D monster, specifically a hag. Every time we reach a relevant point, I'm going to add an item to my list called I'm Right, and Glattis is a hag, and Weapons is totally a D&D movie. And let's go ahead and add our first item called Weird Magic. Over the course of a seemingly endless lifetime, a hag typically discovers or creates several unusual ways to use magic. Even those who have read scholarly books about hag lore can't predict what a particular hag might have up her sleeve. So we're starting the list off strong, as this fits Aunt Glattis to a T. Everything from the twigs to the hair to the personal items of her victims show that her methods are strange but mimic popular D&D spells like Crown of Madness or Dominate Person. Like any good fae, her magic has a twinge of natural elements and is unique to her, making it as fascinating as it is unorthodox. And while we are revisiting scenes, remember Justine and Archer's nightmares? Well, that plays into hag mythos as well, specifically night hags. While a humanoid sleeps, a night hag can straddle the person ethereally and intrude upon their dreams. The ethereal hag fills her victim's head with doubts and fears, in the hope of tricking it into performing evil acts in the waking world. Seems familiar, just like what Aunt Glattis does anytime Justine or Archer get close to her in their investigation. Perhaps it's to scare them, maybe it's so she can break them, or maybe it's so she can weaken them so she can finish them off in the real world. Just another element to add to our list, and there are so many more as we go on to our final chapter, Alex. Alex's chapter picks up earlier than any other, days or even weeks before his classmate's disappearance. And Alex's life at this point is unremarkable. He's a quiet kid who mostly keeps to himself and occasionally gets bullied. So a fairly normal life, until it's disrupted by his parents taking in a distant relative who's elderly and sick.
Well, tonight's the night, pal. Your mom's Aunt Glattis is coming, remember?
Why do we have to have her live at our house?
'Cause it's like we talked about. She's sick, and she doesn't have anywhere else to go.
Wait, his mom's Aunt Glattis? I thought Glattis said that his mom was her sister.
I'm Alex's aunt, and his mom is my baby sister.
Oh well, I'm sure it's nothing. Whatever the case, we immediately learned that this Aunt Glattis is nothing like the one we saw last chapter. She's not quirky and spirited, but rather slow and frail. And of her scant belongings, the only thing that really stands out is the small potted tree, which we already know is central to her weird magic. And this tree will become even more important as we reach the end of the movie. We also get a glance at Aunt Glattis, and though here she seems to be on her deathbed, her fortunes suddenly change when Alex's dad misses picking him up from school and he's forced to walk home. There, he finds his parents uncharacteristically lethargic, almost drugged.
Hey, X-Man. How was school?
What's wrong?
And Glattis, on the other hand, seems to be doing much better.
Oh, welcome home. How are you, sweetie?
What's wrong with my parents?
Oh, nothing, sweetheart. They're just fine.
Mom.
Hey, how was school?
And though Aunt Glattis tries to gaslight Alex, he doesn't believe her, almost like he has proficiencies in intelligence and wisdom saves. Foreshadowing. When this veneer of kindness fails, Aunt Glattis takes on a harsher tone, and the next morning before he heads to school, he sees Aunt Glattis dressed differently. She doesn't bother wearing her colorful wig, her demeanor is cold and icy, and her expression belies a twinge of cruelty. Which brings me to the next item on the list called ugly, unpredictable, and old. Hags represent all that is evil and cruel. Though they resemble withered crones, there is nothing mortal about these monstrous creatures, whose forms reflect only the wickedness of their hearts. Hags perceive ugliness as beauty, and vice versa. You see, this isn't the authentic Aunt Glattis, and neither is this. This is her true self. Her colorful, quirky facade is 100% an act, to the point that it seems humorous.
Oh, I absolutely love this house. Look, a giraffe and a green Chinese lamp. That's original in there, I bet it is.
It comes off as parody because it is. She can't stand kindness and likely deplores bright colors. And that's why anytime she tries to exude any sense of warmth, she can only do so badly. And I don't know who needs to hear this, but Aunt Glattis is not Alex's aunt. And she's not his mom's aunt. And she's not on his dad's side, even though the police specifically call her by his last name.
Detective, come in!
So why does she go by Aunt Glattis? Well, it could be because ants are specifically a social rank used by hags, but I don't think that's it. But rather it's because the best way to find kind-hearted people to prey upon is to pretend to be family. Distant enough that it's not weird when they appear out of nowhere, but close enough that naive and kind-hearted people feel an obligation to help, which sounds a lot like the actions of a green hag. And this is a perfect time to mention the next item on our list, called Master Manipulator. Green hags are adept deceivers, and they use illusions to cloak themselves in unassuming forms, hoping to tempt innocence into peril. These hags often spirit their victims back to their surreal lairs, where they hold captives prisoner or cook them into monstrous meals. This is similar to Aunt Glattis's MO, except instead of tricking them to come to her lair, she goes to theirs as part of a grand fishing scheme. And rather than choosing between holding Alex's parents captive or eating them, she says, why not both? And uses them as minions while feeding off their life force. And if you want to see some real mean-spirited manipulation, just look and see how she treats Alex.
Now, before you go to school today, I want you to promise that you will not tell a living soul that I am here or that your parents are resting like they are. I can make your parents hurt themselves. I can make them hurt each other. I can make them eat each other if I want to. Do I want to, Alex? Do you believe me?
Alex takes on the responsibility of feeding his parents and keeping them alive, terrified of what would happen to his parents if anyone found out about Aunt Glattis. And this would probably continue until his mom and dad were lifeless husks, except they don't seem to provide enough energy to keep her vibrant. She realizes she needs something more, so she proposes a deal to Alex.
You could help.
How?
Well, at school, bring an object from each of your classmates home to me. That might work.
How will that make you better?
It might be just what I need.
And if you got better, you'd go back home?
If I got better, I'd go back home.
That's another item for our list, dark bargains. When a hag is generous with her help or requires only a simple task as payment, that's no guarantee that the deal will turn out as expected for both parties. By offering a proposal that seems or is fair, chances are that the hag is pursuing a hidden agenda. Alex must not play D&D though, because he agrees to Aunt Glattis's proposal, one she may or may not have any intention of keeping. So he goes to school and grabs a few of his classmates' belongings, and later that night at 2:17 a.m., Aunt Glattis performs the ritual that sets the events of the film into motion, a series of events leading to deep pain for the community and the individuals in it. And this too can be found in hag lore, and in fact, it's central to who they are. It's why they are so great, and it's called obsession with tragedy. Green hags revel in the failings and tragedies of other creatures. They derive joy from bringing people low and seeing hope turn to despair, not just for individuals, but for whole nations. Or in this case, a whole town. A hag that spends a long time in close proximity to a human settlement often depletes the community of good-hearted folks as they succumb to her evil and selfish plans. The mood of the town becomes unwelcoming, grim, moody, or outright hostile towards newcomers and travelers. We see this happen in the movie. Despite a banner saying "Made Brooke Strong," the children's disappearance shows the cracks within the town. From a bureaucratic school system reprimanding teachers who care too much, to a corrupt police force seemingly incapable of even basic detective work, to the mob-like behavior of residents scapegoating Justine, show how the town was corrupted by Aunt Glattis's presence. And here's a weird thought. The movie makes it pretty clear that she feeds off of the life force of others. That is completely reasonable. Even with the kids, D&D lore makes it clear that hags devour children, and she's doing that in a manner of speaking. But what if she's not actually feeding on their life force? What if she's feeding on something else? What if she is feeding on the suffering of the town? What if by stealing the children, she could feed on the grief of every parent, and on Justine's loneliness and isolation, and on Archer's anger and sadness, and on Paul's and James's vices, and on Marcus's spree of violence? In other words, what if she survives by turning people into weapons? And if we go along with this idea, it makes the evil so much richer, because it means that Aunt Glattis and her ilk are the perfect monsters because they make us monsters too. And speaking of turning people into monsters, let's cut back to Justine and Archer. Back in the present time, the two arrive at Alex's house, formulating a plan of approach when suddenly, Paul steps out and beckons them inside. Despite misgivings, the two enter, unaware they're walking into a trap.
Hello?
Aunt Glattis is already prepared. She's created salt barriers as glyphs of warding set up to alert her puppets to attack whenever they are crossed, something that catches Justine completely off guard.
What are you doing back there?
Wait.
Meanwhile, upstairs, Alex has formulated a plan. Despite the dangers, he's determined to get into Aunt Glattis' room, believing there might be a key to stop the terror, and if D&D lore is any indication, he might be right. Every Archhag has a unique weakness tied to a fateful encounter the hag had in the past, or something that embodies the antithesis of the hag's magic. A hag has to keep this vulnerability a secret. Well, if there was a weakness, it would almost certainly lay beyond that door. Alex purposely triggers the salt that leads his parents away from Aunt Glattis' room. Downstairs in a desperate moment, Justine is forced to shoot both Paul and James. This allows Archer to look downstairs for his son, but he finds someone else instead, which spells disaster for his free will. As Glattis compels him to attack Justine, Alex is upstairs in a life-or-death chase with his parents. He manages to evade them and reach Aunt Glattis' room to the source of her power, the small potted tree. And Alex has a trick up his sleeve. Because, as it turns out, Alex has a class too. He's highly intelligent, he has a keen mind, and he's observed Aunt Glattis' rituals and committed them to memory to the point he's able to replicate them. Because Alex is a wizard. How do you want to do this, Alex?
Oh no.
The children dogpile on top of Aunt Glattis and rip her apart limb from limb. With that, the hag is destroyed and evil is vanquished, at least for now. But the scars of Aunt Glattis' damage remain. Lives have been lost, children spend years learning to speak and function again, and Alex's parents will likely never recover. Of our original party, only Alex, Justine, and Archer remain, and it's yet to be seen how they'll cope with the new normal. But I have a feeling they'll be okay. So there you go! Aunt Glattis is a hag, and Weapons is totally a D&D movie. Or maybe not. That's up to you to decide. But regardless of how you interpret it, I think what Weapons is really about is trauma and loss and how we deal with it, both as a community and as individuals. Trauma can unite us or divide us, and it can even break us if we let it. Like a cunning hag or parasite, it can slip in and prey on our weaknesses and eat us from the inside out. But it doesn't have to. We can try to survive, we can try to endure, we can try to make it to the other side. And though we will be changed, hopefully it will be for the better. And we also have to know we don't have to face it alone. If we feel like we're not strong enough, we can ask our fellow party members for help. Because if we just let it fester, trauma can turn us into monsters. We can't always choose what happens to us, and we can't choose what comes knocking at our door. But sometimes, if it's a parasite, or a hag, or even sweet old Aunt Glattis, the best thing to do is to not let them in the first place. Thank you so much to these amazing Patreon supporters, including the legendary Beth Fitzgibbon, for making videos like this possible. I'm not going to be making a single dime of ad revenue off of this one. That is all going to go to Warner Brothers, which is completely okay. If you do want to show me support, you can check out my Patreon, or you can give me a like or share or hype, because all of those things really do help out a lot. Or throw down in the comments Monster Week 2026, or Aunt Glattis is a hag and Weapons is totally a D&D movie. Both of those things would be really cool. Also, speaking of Monster Week, check out this playlist of other amazing videos by other amazing creators. And as always, until next time, thanks for watching and may your day be a critical success.